Tonight, we're going to start with Al-Qaeda, the terrorists that are apparently planning to blow all of us up. Pretty amazing thing. Now, I have a theory on this, but we want to go to Buck Sexton because he really wants to talk about a story that has not really been talked about, and that is the prison break that Al-Qaeda just broke a bunch of people out of prison. Are they on the run or are we on the run? Our national security advisor, Buck Sexton in New York. Hello, Buck.
Hey, Glenn. It's prison breaks. This has not been covered extensively in the media. I think because if people understood what this was, they would be much more frightened of this than any sort of nebulous threat that's out there right now. This is a counterterrorism catastrophe. You had a prison break at Abu Ghraib in Iraq in which 500, they estimate, hardened al-Qaeda fighters are now on the loose. These are guys who not only can attack the Iraqi government and could go into Syria and wage jihad there, they could spread all around the world. These are individuals who have fought against U.S. forces on the ground. They have extensive bomb-making skills. They have networks in place for international jihad. That alone would be cause for major concern. But, oh, Glenn, in the same week, there were over 1,000 people who got free from a prison in Benghazi. Big surprise there. Now you have hundreds, at a minimum, of people who are jihadists, have ties to international terrorism, who are out on the street from Libya. And, oh, in that same week in northern Pakistan, a prison was overrun. By the way, these were all very complex operations, some of them in the Iraqi case involving suicide bombers. Hundreds of hardened Taliban and al-Qaeda fighters, Pakistani Taliban fighters in this case, in Pakistan have gotten loose there, too. This has become a counterterrorism catch-and-release program. We're supposed to count on these allies, but the reality is that some of the worst are now out and about trying to wage jihad against us, and we're being told, oh, we're going to shut down the embassies for a week. That's not going to stop these guys, Glenn.
Buck, you seem to be making some sort of point here about 3 prison breaks could a crisis make, and these are 3 separate prison breaks. I mean, you have no evidence that they're tied together at all. Coincidence, all 3 of them.
Oh, al-Qaeda coordinating across international boundaries, Glenn, that would just be, of course, unprecedented. It's not like they're a global terrorist,
hold on.
A global terrorist organization.
They've been decimated. They've been decimated.
Well, if we want to really be fair, decimated comes from ancient Rome, where it was where you lost a tenth of a troop that had deserted during battle, that would actually kill their own soldiers. So perhaps the president's correct, because about 90% of al-Qaeda's fighting strength still seems to be on the battlefield. In the contemporary context, we use decimated to mean getting beaten really badly. But I'd say that, yeah, maybe they lopped the head off. They lopped the head off here. They took off the 10% of leadership that was in the AF-PAC theater. But, Glenn, there are al-Qaeda operatives all over the world. They're managing to coordinate 3 major prison breaks in a week. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that undermines all of our efforts on the ground. Think about what this does. Informants, people that helped us get these guys or help those countries put these people in prison, people that risk their lives, their families' lives to put these jihadists in jail. Guess what? They are the first ones who are probably going to end up on some kind of a video getting their head sawn off here. I mean, that's the reality of what this means on the ground. Never mind the fact that the security services that put these guys away, look, a lot of them wanted to handle it the old Arab way, and the U.S., of course, is saying no, they need a trial. Now it looks like holding them for trial may not have been the best option.
Buck, I'm just trying to hear you make the point that what we've done here is we have saved all of our embassies, because this is good news. We've decimated al-Qaeda, which you just admitted, and then we have closed all of our embassies. Sure, it's never been done before, but that, I believe, to the Middle East is a signal of strength.
Oh, Glenn, the shutting down of embassies for a week, I mean, this is interesting. The only reason you would do this that would make sense is if you thought you had actionable intelligence to get the cell, to get the individuals who were planning some kind of an imminent attack. If you're just shutting down because, oh, it happens to be Ramadan and there's been major jihadist prison breaks, you're not really doing yourself that many favors. And in the process, to say we look weak in the eyes of the world, our embassies are fortresses. We have Marine guards at them. We have security procedures in place. We're shutting down for a week? We don't even know where we're shutting down. I mean, we've basically shut down our ability to speak to the entire Muslim world, at least in an official capacity. And they're supposed to believe the moderates are going to rise up against the hardliners now. The Muslim Brotherhood's going to be marginalized. Do we look right now like we're willing to stand up against the Muslim Brotherhood in any of these countries? Of course not.
All right. So now some would say, not me because I have my own theory, but some would say that basically what they said about George W. Bush, that this is just scare tactics, that this isn't even real, scare tactics, because he's trying to make sure that the NSA, that whole thing stays together. What do you think?
There's an endless stream of threats. Threat reporting in the intelligence community is essentially, you're just inundated all the time. It's drinking from a fire hose. There's so much of it coming in all the time. So their ability to find a threat that is real and that is perhaps even credible is omnipresent. There's always this possibility they can say, look at this threat. This is very real.
So what is it about this one? They're saying it's unprecedented, never been bigger. The chatter is like crazy. Yeah. They're saying it's very specific, but they can't. It could be on a train in New Jersey, could be in Spain, could be in an embassy. We have no idea. What the hell are they even talking about?
They've given us a lot of detail, Glenn. They've told us there's the possibility of a terrorist attack at some place at some time involving some individuals. That's about the extent of it. And for them to know that there's such an imminence to this attack, meaning it's so likely for it to happen, but be so scant on the details, and to have this kind of a reaction, basically telling telling U.S. travelers, be careful when you're abroad, how is that supposed to make anyone safer? How are we supposed to have confidence in this? However, it does, as you point out, very dramatically change the conversation from, what's happened in Benghazi a year ago and what the NSA has been up to, we need more NSA. We need more intelligence agencies prying into things at home for some reason, Glenn, to protect us when the targets apparently are U.S. interests abroad. It doesn't square, does it?
Do we really need more NSA? Because we're making public-private partnerships right now with the government, where we're telling these companies, you just got to give us all your data, just give us everything. We need backdoors and passwords of your users and everything else, and everybody's giving them to them. Everybody is. For the record, this company will never do that unless you show up with a warrant specifically for specific information. Nothing. You won't get jack from us. Where are the companies that'll say that? Well, this is of course.
There aren't enough of them right now, and we have given over so much private data, all of our private data, to these different private sector entities, and now the government's essentially just either making the case or using the force of law to get access to all of that, and they're really doing it on their own whim here. I mean, this is sort of just ignoring certainly the spirit of the Fourth Amendment, if not the letter of the law itself. So unless the American people speak out and say we need to stop this kind of thing from happening, it's going to continue. It's going to get much worse. And Glenn, by the way, the big transition is going to be, not only can we keep you safe from terrorism with this data, and this is beginning to happen, but we can solve crimes with this data. We can solve tax issues with this data. We could solve all the problems of this statist authoritarian society we're going towards if you just don't make too much noise while we go through your Gmail account.
If you look at and Jeff Fisher, who's just been going on and on and on about this for like 2 years, he's like, watch the CSI shows, watch television. All of them are using this kind of information, and they're like, and we caught him. They're all doing it. All of the cop shows. In fact, wasn't it John McCain or some loser like that was like, was it Rudy Giuliani? Who was it? Tiffany, do you remember? It was somebody like that in the news recently that was like, you know what, we can solve these things in cop shows. So I don't know why anybody has a problem with cop shows aren't real.
The cop shows are not real, but you have what you can actually do now technologically is much scarier and much more advanced than anything you're seeing on the cop shows. And look, I worked for the NYPD Intelligence Division. I actually know exactly what they can do. And I can tell you this, unless people are able to get the conversation going in a direction where we start passing legislation, where Congress is willing to stand up for our rights and privacy as a society, you will have two very scary things coinciding. The creation of a digital tyranny, a society in which all of your information is accessible to the government, and a huge, massive government bureaucracy that doesn't have a whole lot to do except go through all that information and make sure they're regulating our society properly, make sure there are no lawbreakers amongst us, and essentially you have the death of a free people.
You got that right. Thank you very much, Buck. I appreciate it.